Hello, my friends. This episode is about letting all of the shit that annoys you go. Let it go. So, the very first step in my signature meditation practice comes from the Hawaiian Hoonah lineage. My grandmother was a kahuna. I guess you could say she was like a priestess of sorts in the Hoonah tradition. And when they meditate, they start with their eyes open, although resting on a spot in front of them, not gripping, but resting. But their eyes open and allowing in their peripheral vision. And when I first moved back to New York after completing my very first yoga teacher training, I was living in Santa Barbara, California. Actually, living in Santa Monica, but I stayed at this ashram up in Santa Barbara where I did my teacher training. And in that ashram, everything was pristine. It was perfectly quiet. The wonderful, extraordinary environment for meditation. And Santa Monica and Malibu were certainly lovely and peaceful. And then boom, 9/11 hit. And soon thereafter, I moved back to New York because we didn't know what the hell was going to happen. And my family and friends were all there. And so I needed to go home for my own peace of mind. When I got back to New York, it was the state of extraordinary anxiety. And there were sirens and noise, and every time a truck would go by outside of the studio that I taught at, there was like one of those raised steel grates on the ground, and it would go boom, boom, and the anxiousness was palpable. And I lost my meditation practice. I didn't know how to meditate with the world happening around me, with life happening around me. I could only do it in perfect quiet. And that's not really doing anything for somebody like you and I who lives in the real world. So I had to create this meditation practice, and it was very unintentional. And I did a whole episode on this, so I'm not going to go too deeply into it. But the point is when I started to meditate, beginning with my eyes open, allowing in the sounds around me, those sounds faded away. When I was trying to shut out those sounds, push out and hold away those sounds, they got louder and more persistent. Now, if you've listened to a couple of the past episodes, I've made it a point to mention that holding things away, resistance, pushing things away, is equal to holding on to things. It's the same thing. You're trying to hold on to control of the environment around you, and that's not possible. You have no control over anybody but yourself. We're clear on this, right? You need to understand this. And that's kind of my point about letting shit go that annoys you, that's happening outside of you, right? So what happened from that meditation practice, like I just said, in that first step of the practice, was I realized over time that what I was cultivating was tolerance for the world around me, not being so affected and disturbed and bothered by what was happening outside of me. Now, parlay this into your personal relationships. When we first enter into a relationship, I don't care what type of relationship is, whether it's romantic, friendship, professional. Of course, there's familial relationships, but we're born into those, right? But when we enter chosen relationships and our relationships with our family, this is relevant for. But when we enter into chosen relationships, it's like a honeymoon phase. Everything is great. Everything is wonderful. We love everything about it. And then we start to spend more time in that relationship. And people don't do what we want them to do. And now we are getting triggered and they're getting triggered. And they make funny sounds, or they do things that just simply annoy you, or they eat with their mouth open. I mean, there's so many little nuances that people do. How many times has somebody been doing something that's really not a thing? It's just a little personality trait that they have, behavior that they have. How many times have you thought or even said out loud, oh my gosh, when that person does that, I want to smack them? I know I have. I am raising my hand really high. I'm raising my hands because I've definitely done that. Now, who's suffering in that moment? Is that person suffering, or are you suffering every time that little characteristic comes up? And so, are you going to change somebody, make that flex to change somebody, to stop that little quirk, to stop that way that they speak, to stop that perspective? Or are you going to reflect on yourself and say, hey, why is that bothering me this much? That when I'm spending time with this person, I'm already anticipating that they're going to do that. And then as soon as they do that, I'm justified and valid. Oh, see, there it is. They did it. Oh, and now I'm trying to act like I'm not so annoyed and seething at this person that I want to smack them. Not literally. Please don't ever hit anything living. I mean, hit your pillow. Go ahead if you're really frustrated. So how do you stop that suffering? Because I can certainly share that there have been some things that people do that have bothered me so immensely that it has impacted a perfectly good relationship. Here's an example. I remember when I was younger, we had a family member who was a very old man. And when people age, they start to lose some of their mannerisms, behaviors, facilities, whatever we want to call it. And I remember that this very old man in our family would eat with his mouth open. And he couldn't control the food in his mouth from little bits of it falling out and getting on his face and getting on his shirt. Again, he was like well into his 80s, probably almost in his 90s. And I remember some family members wouldn't be able to sit with this old man at a table because they couldn't stand to watch him eat. Well, why are you watching him? Stop watching him. Choose a different seat at the table. And not only that, but the anticipation before we would sit down for mealtime, there would be like oh, here we go. We're sitting across the table from Uncle Eugene and we're watching all the food fall out of his mouth and it's disgusting. And why isn't anybody going to do anything? What is anyone going to do about that? And why do you need anyone to do anything about that? And furthermore, I remember those specific family members as they aged, then having difficulties controlling their own bodily functions, including wearing food all over their face and their shirts as they would eat. Do you see what I'm saying? So we get really caught up in these little characteristics that people have for whatever reason they have them. So the work here in your personal evolution is, and wait a second, I want to pause there because this podcast is called Confessions of a Selfish Bitch, right? And I think we're getting to the point where you understand that what I'm making reference to is all of the times that you prioritize yourself. It's not even that I'm just making reference to it. I flat out stated that oftentimes when you self-prioritize, when you evolve, when you grow, when you say, I can't do that for you, and make choices that are best for you without intending to hurt anybody, but it'll bother some people, you will get labeled as a selfish bitch, whether they say it out loud to you or behind your back, or they just think it, whatever. But there are times when being selfish is indeed a thing, and expecting anyone else to change for your comfort is, dare I say, selfish behavior, selfish mindset, selfish belief, because you're expecting, well, I just said it, anyone to change for your comfort. And that's not what we're doing here. And that's not how you find peace in this journey, because it's not practical to believe that you're going to walk around in life and be like, I don't like that, stop doing it. I don't like that, don't do that anymore. Don't do that anymore, it drives me crazy. It's not going to happen. What you can do is be self-aware and ask yourself, do I need to focus on that? Is it really so bad? Does that make that person a bad person? Are there things that are unacceptable to you that challenge your core values in your relationship? Absolutely. Does it make that person a bad person? Sometimes. There are abusive people, 100%. And in this context of you can't change anybody, that 100% aligns. And then it's up to you to not try to change them, but to let that person go. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about all of the little things that we pick up in life that bother and annoy us. And then we fixate on it and we watch for it so we can be validated in our annoyance, so we can point it out, so we can criticize, right? All of these things that we do instead of choosing to let it go, choosing to not look at it. I recently put down social media because it was driving me crazy. I pop on to Instagram for about 30 minutes, put up what I need to put up, visit some friends who I keep in touch with through Instagram, because life doesn't always have time to keep up with everybody personally. The point being is, Instagram was really upsetting me and making me crazy. Social media, the media was really very upsetting to me. And so I stopped looking at it. Now, are there some behaviors in my relationships that annoy the fuck out of me? Yeah. Is it that person's problem that they need to change? No. It's up to me to look at myself and say, why am I focused on that? Why is that an issue for me? Is it something that they're doing to me, or is it just how they are? Do you get what I'm saying? Sometimes there's just nothing left to say. I need to just stop talking about a point. Let go of needing to control anyone or anything outside of yourself, and start with the little things that annoy you. When you catch yourself being really annoyed about something, pause, and instead of fixating on that thing, self-reflect. Do I need to focus on that? Is it something that is truly offensive and is truly challenging my values? Is it really impacting this relationship? Or is it only impacting because I choose to fixate on it and be bothered by it? Or is it something that I can recognize as not personal? It's not actually challenging what's important to me. It's just a nuance of this individual. And hey, guess what? Maybe, just maybe, you have a nuance, a characteristic, a little tick or something that you do that's really annoying to another person. Womp womp. Mic drop. That just happened. Could you imagine? Oh my God. But it's true. And this is how we level the playing field. And, when we get into the forgiveness practice, which we're going to do, I almost spoke about today, and then I had a very strong pull to speak about this because that's how I operate. I operate very much based on what feels good and right for me. It's wonderful, and at the same time, it can be really frustrating because there's not a whole lot of structure in that. When you are a part of a difficult situation, and again, I'm not going to go too far into this forgiveness talk because it's going to be the next episode, and it's a big one. I encourage you to start recognizing that you are half of the situation by the fact that you are in it. You are a participant in the situation. Don't get too hung up on that because I'm going to explain it in depth, because I'm sure right away many of you are going like, yeah, but what about this? And yeah, but what about that? Okay, don't worry about that. We're going to cover all of that. But for right now, when something annoys you, it's your problem and only your problem. And any stress, discomfort, or suffering that you are experiencing as a result of it is for you to deal with and manage. This goes back to triggers, and I say it over and over again, and I will continue to say it because I am very passionate about this. Triggers do not exist so you can then manage what it is that is causing the trigger. They exist so you can manage what it is inside yourself that needs to be healed, so you can self-reflect on whether or not your values are being challenged. And notice that I speak more to values than I do to boundaries. I believe very strongly, and this is important, so I want you to really focus on what I'm going to say. It is not our job as we gain wisdom through our life to establish more firm boundaries. It is our job to learn to have discernment. There is a big difference between boundaries and discernment. I was on an Instagram page because I was engaging with this midlife women's wellness influencer. And her post was about as soon as a man uses his childhood to excuse his poor behavior, walk away. And she was very specific. Don't give a second chance. Don't give a third chance. You walk. And I took pause and was like, oh, I'm so sorry. But are you kidding me? We all have behaviors and patterns from our childhood. And so what if his behavior and pattern or her behavior and pattern from their childhood is triggering something from your childhood? Now both are being informed from their childhood. So who's right and who's wrong? The big question in discernment is for you to pause, to self-reflect and say, is that actually a problem for me? Is it something that I need to heal and let go of? Can I have compassion for this person? Or is it actually really bad behavior that doesn't work for me, that is abusive, belittling, shaming in some way, whatever it might be, that I can bring to their attention? Now, this is the big pressure test. Are they willing to recognize that behavior and maybe say, yes, that comes from my childhood. I recognize it. I apologize for it. And beyond apology, I'm willing to change the behavior. Please have rational expectations of me bring it to my awareness when it happens without yelling at me, shaming me, being angry with me. Bring it to my awareness and give me the opportunity to change a very deeply seated lifelong pattern. That's relationship. And it's a huge shift. It's a very big shift in whether or not you have success in relationships, because we're all walking around going through dating apps and in our manifesting boards and putting all of the criteria that we want in a perfect person that's perfect for us. When if you're still looking for somebody, it's a pretty clear indication that your past relationships haven't worked. So maybe, just maybe, you don't actually know what you need, what's right, and what's best for you. And instead of manifesting all of these, well, he or she has to dress this way and drive this car and make this much money and have this type, please. How about I want somebody who's going to make me feel safe in the relationship, to be my partner in compassion and patience and communication, to share when something isn't working for them, and have the willingness to grow, to heal, to evolve together in the relationship. Now, that's certainly a much bigger issue, let's call it, than somebody who annoys you or something that annoys you. But letting go of something small that annoys you, starting with open awareness meditation, being aware of and allowing what's happening in your environment, most certainly will help you cultivate tolerance and patience for the growth processes that relationships invite us to share with another human being. So I'm going to put a note. I definitely shared that meditation practice. I think it's called my foundational meditation practice, and I'm pretty sure it's the second episode, the first mini-sode. But I'm going to put it a link to it in the show notes so that you have access to it. If you would like for me to email it and the course to you, which I believe, again, are in the show notes of the first mini-sode, which are the second episode. But if you would like for me to email you the course, it's also in my YouTube channel, but I'll send it to you directly. Just drop me an email, hello@chermelly.com. I know that these are big shifts that I'm suggesting here, but it's your life and it's your joy. And it's your experience on this earth. And the only person that you have control over is yourself. So if you can learn to let go of all of these little things that just annoy the shit out of you, you are going to have a much happier life experience. Okay? So if you need support doing any of this, I do offer private advisory, especially if you're making any major shifts in your life. Again, reach out to me, hello@chermelly.com. But I do hope that these podcasts help you to identify and recognize how you're showing up in your own life and how you have the power within you. You don't need to flex to change anything outside of you. The peace, the comfort, the happiness, the strength, all of it comes from managing yourself, controlling yourself in as much as you can. Okay? So I love you so much. Don't forget to watch the mini-sode. I'm going to guide you through that very first step of the meditation, and that's it. And I'm sending you love. Have a great day.